The morning sun painted the meadows in a soft wash of gold, brushing dew from the tall grass and coaxing the air alive with the hum of crickets and the song of sparrows. The old farm at the edge of town had been silent for years now, its fences leaning tiredly, its barn door hanging askew. Where once there had been the bustle of tractors, the clatter of buckets, and the laughter of farm hands, there was now only quiet, but a horse named Jasper. Jasper had once been the pride of the farm. His coat, a shimmering chestnut with a white blaze across his nose, had caught eyes at county fairs. Children had squealed with joy when they rode him at the town parade, and his owner used to say Jasper had the heart of a king. But life had changed. The family who had cared for him left when the farm went bankrupt, and in the confusion, Jasper was left behind. Someone was supposed to come for him, the neighbors said. Weeks passed, then months, and no one ever did. Still, Jasper endured. Horses are not creatures of complaint. They live in rhythm with the earth, adapting where humans cannot. He grazed the meadow, drank from the stream, and found shelter in the sagging barn. He grew leaner, quieter, and lonelier. Days passed one after another, and he learned to listen more closely to the wind, to memorize the paths of rabbits, to count the seasons in the wildflowers. Then one spring morning, something extraordinary happened. It began with a sound-sharp, frantic peeps cutting through the air. Jasper raised his head from the grass, ears flicking forward. The sound was not of foxes or songbirds, not of squirrels or the farm's old crows. It was small, fragile, urgent. Curiosity tugged at him, and he followed it down toward the stream. Near the water, tangled in reeds, was a small cluster of yellow fluff. Ducklings, 6 of them bobbing desperately against the current, their tiny wings flapping as they tried to climb onto the muddy bank. Jasper paused, nostrils flaring. He saw no mother. No protective duck sweeping in to corral them with her wings. No sharp warning quacks. Just the ducklings, alone, trembling, barely holding together. Jasper stepped closer, his hooves sinking into the wet earth. The ducklings froze, sensing his shadow tower over them. For a moment, there was only stillness. Then one brave duckling gave a weak peep, as if asking for help. Something in Jasper stirred. Something long buried the memory of being cared for, the memory of little hands patting his neck, of someone depending on him. He lowered his great head, gently nudging the reeds aside with his nose. The ducklings seized their chance, scrambling up the muddy slope and tumbling onto the grass beside him. They huddled together in a trembling heap, their downy bodies slick with water. Jasper blew out a soft breath, his warm air ruffling their feathers. They peeped again, softer this time, almost as though answering him. From that moment, they did not leave. At first, Jasper thought they would wander off once they regained their strength. But the ducklings trailed him with stubborn determination. When he walked to the meadow, they waddled after him, tripping over grass taller than they were. When he stopped to drink at the stream, they gathered at his hooves, dipping their tiny bills into the water. At night, when Jasper returned to the barn, they pressed against his legs, refusing to be left alone in the dark. And so, the abandoned horse found himself with a flock of unlikely followers. He grew used to their presence. He learned to step carefully, so as not to trample them. He lowered his head more slowly, aware that one might be napping in the grass beneath him. When storms rolled in, Jasper stood at the barn door and let the ducklings nestle against his chest, his body shielding them from the cold wind. They, in turn, chirped and bustled around him with a kind of bright, bumbling affection that filled the quiet spaces of his days. Jasper had never been a father, but he became one all the same. News spread quickly in the small town. Hikers who passed the meadow returned with stories. There's a horse out there raising ducks. Some laughed, some doubted it, but those who saw it with their own eyes could not deny the strange, tender bond. Photos began to circulate online. Jasper, standing tall with 6 golden ducklings at his hooves. The abandoned horse who had been forgotten was suddenly remembered again, though he seemed not to notice. His world was small, centered on the tiny creatures who now depended on him. Weeks melted into summer. The ducklings grew, their yellow down giving way to soft brown feathers. They learned to swim in the stream, darting through the water with growing confidence, though they always returned to Jasper afterward. He would stand at the edge, ears flicking, until the last one clambered ashore. Sometimes he nuzzled them with his nose, checking they were all there. The people who watched called it unbelievable. Jasper, who had once lost everything, refused to lose them. But nature is not without its trials. One evening, as the sun slipped low and the meadow glowed amber, danger came prowling. Fox, thin and sharp-eyed, crept toward the barn where Jasper and his ducklings rested. The ducks sensed it first, bursting into frantic peeps. Jasper jolted awake, ears pricked, and saw the shadow slinking closer. Instinct surged through him. He stamped his hooves hard against the earth, the thunder of it echoing across the meadow. The fox hesitated. Jasper bared his teeth, lowering his head in warning. Then, with a sudden charge, he lunged, chasing the predator into the brush. The ducklings huddled together, safe in the barn. Jasper returned, sides heaving, but calm again as soon as he saw them unharmed. That night, he kept watch until dawn. The bond only deepened. By the time autumn colored the trees, the ducks were nearly grown. Their wings stretched stronger, their feathers sleek. People wondered if they would leave, as ducks do, to follow the instinct of migration. But Jasper did not think of that. He grazed, he guarded, he gave, and the ducks, despite having the whole sky ahead of them, always circled back to him. They perched on the fence posts while he fed. They waddled after him in a line, comical and devoted. They had chosen him, just as he had chosen them. Winter arrived with sharp winds and heavy snows. The meadow lay buried under white, and food grew scarce. Jasper grew thinner, though he never showed weakness in front of the ducks. The townspeople, who had watched the strange family from afar, began to step in. Buckets of grain appeared at the edge of the field, left by kind hands. A heated trough was dragged near the barn so Jasper would not thirst. The ducks, hardy and resilient, stayed close to him, nestling under his belly to keep warm. He warmed them with his body, even as he trembled in the cold. Through it all, they survived together. By spring, when the snow melted and green returned, Jasper was no longer the forgotten horse of an abandoned farm. He was a guardian, a friend, and a story that warmed every heart that heard it. The ducks, now fully grown, remained at his side, waddling through the fields as though it were the most natural thing in the world. Children from town came to watch, bringing scraps of bread, laughing as the ducks quaked happily. Jasper stood tall, proud, his coat shining again under the sun. And though he could not say it in words, anyone who looked into his eyes could see the truth. Jasper had found a family, not of his blood, not of his kind, but of his heart. He had been abandoned, but he was no longer alone. The years rolled on. Seasons cycled, the ducks nested and raised little ones of their own. Each spring, ducklings tottered through the grass, and Jasper, old now, Slower watched them with the same gentle patience he had shown the first 6. The meadow became alive again, not with tractors or farm hands, but with laughter, visitors, and the soft miracle of an unlikely family. When Jasper finally grew too tired to rise one morning, the town gathered. The ducks pressed close, quacking softly, unwilling to leave his side. Flowers were laid in the grass, and stories were told of the horse who had once been forgotten, but who had given the world a lesson it would never forget. Love does not always arrive the way we expect it. Sometimes it waddles in on tiny webbed feet and demands we open our hearts. And Jasper had.